The cause of your troubles is in your phone, she said, her voice steady. I have reviewed your test results and have come. My son deserves better than this. If you can't give him children, maybe he should find someone who can. Drink from this and you will have money. Plenty of money. Alex found himself in a dark candlelit room. Shadows danced on the walls as the flames flickered. The air was thick with a strange sweet scent that made his head swim. Around him were other members of the secret cult, all wearing red robes with hoods covering their faces. At the center of the room stood a strange-looking woman. Her eyes were like burning coals and her hair flowed wildly around her face. She raised her hands and the room fell silent. Before I continue with this story, please consider subscribing to this channel and turning on your bell notification icon so that you will get notified about new videos. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for coming back. Now, join me as we dive into another extremely intriguing story. In a loud voice that sent chills down Alex's spine, the woman proclaimed, "Tonight, one among us will be granted unimaginable wealth. But for this gift, a great sacrifice must be made." Her gaze fell on Alex and she smiled a twisted smile. Alex stepped forward. Alex's heart pounded in his chest. He looked around, seeing the faces of the other cult members hidden in shadows. Fear gripped him, but something deeper, a desperate hunger for wealth, pushed him forward. He stepped into the circle, his legs trembling. The strange woman handed him a calabash filled with a dark, thick liquid. "Drink from this and you will have money. Plenty of money. But know this, your manhood will be the prize." Laughter echoed around the room as Alex took the calabash with shaking hands. The sound grew louder and louder, filling his ears. He closed his eyes and lifted the calabash to his lips. The liquid was bitter and cold, but he swallowed it down. The laughter continued, and in a moment, everything went black. Alex jolted awake, his heart racing. He was in his bed, drenched in sweat. The laughter still echoed in his ears, but it slowly faded as he realized it had all been a dream. He quickly checked for his manhood and was relieved as it was still intact. He checked his clock and his heart sank. He was running late for work. There was no time to think about a strange dream. He had an important presentation today, one that could win his company a multi-million-dollar contract. He dressed up quickly, grabbed his keys and rushed out of the house. The traffic was heavy and Alex's mind was a whirl of thoughts. He couldn't afford to be late. The presentation was all he could think about. As he drove, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, seeing a message from his girlfriend, Kemi. "Good luck, love," she had written. He smiled but kept his eyes on the road. Just then, out of nowhere, a car swerved into his lane and hit his car with a loud crash. The world spun around him and his car skidded off the road and hit a tree. The sound of breaking glass and crunching metal filled his ears. Pain shot through his body and everything went dark. When Alex opened his eyes, he was in a hospital bed. The white walls and the smell of antiseptic told him where he was. His mother was sitting by his side, her eyes red from crying. Kemi was there too, holding his hand tightly. "Thank God you are awake," his mother said, her voice shaking with relief. Kemi squeezed his hand and smiled through her tears. "You scared us," she said softly. Alex tried to sit up, but pain shot through his body and he lay back down, groaning. "What happened?" he asked, his voice weak. "You were in an accident," Kemi said. "The doctor said you will be okay, but you need to rest." As he lay there, memories crept back into his mind. The strange woman, the laughter, the presentation, the contract. He shook his head. Everything seemed to blur together in a confusing mix. What was real? What was a dream? He closed his eyes, trying to make sense of it all. When Alex was finally discharged from the hospital, he returned home with Kemi. She insisted on staying with him to help him recover. One evening, while Kemi was preparing dinner, Alex sat on the couch staring at the TV without really watching it. His mind was elsewhere. Suddenly, his phone rang. It was his boss. "Alex, how are you?" His boss asked. "I'm better, thank you." Alex replied. "Good to hear. Listen, I have some great news. We won the contract. Your presentation was a hit." The clients were very impressed. Alex was stunned. But I didn't make the presentation. I was in the hospital." "I know," his boss said, "but your draft was good enough. We used it and it worked." After the call, Alex felt a mix of relief and confusion. How had things worked out so well despite the accident? It was almost as if some unseen force was at play. The thought sent chills down his spine. A few days later, Alex received a notification on his phone. He looked at the screen and saw an alert of $10,000 deposited into his account. At first, he thought it was a mistake or perhaps another dream. He immediately called his friend and colleague Ade. "Oh boy, how far now?" Alex said, trying to keep his voice steady. "I just received an alert of $10,000. What did happen now?" Ade laughed heartily on the other end. "Alex, now you're sure of the money from the contract where we win now. Congratulations, my guy." Alex was stunned but also elated. He thanked Ade and hung up, a wide grin spreading across his face. The money was real and his life was about to change. With his newfound wealth, Alex decided it was time to take the next step in his relationship with Kemi. He proposed and she joyfully accepted. Their wedding was a grand affair, filled with family, friends, and luxury. Alex felt like he was living his dream. Everything was perfect. 3 years into their marriage, Alex had become incredibly wealthy. His business ventures were thriving and he even opened his own company. But despite their outward success, a shadow loomed over Alex and Kemi's lives. Kemi had not been able to conceive, and the initial hope that it was a mere marital challenge had turned into a harsh realization that something was wrong. One afternoon, while Alex was at work, his mother visited their home. She had grown increasingly impatient and suspicious about the lack of grandchildren. The moment she stepped inside, her frustration boiled over. "Kemi! Kemi!" she shouted, her voice sharp and accusatory. "What kind of woman are you? 3 years of marriage and you can't even give my son a child. What are you doing in this house?" Kemi tried to remain calm. "Mama, it's not that simple. We are trying, but these things take time." "Time?" Alex's mother scoffed. "How much time do you need? Maybe you are the problem. Maybe you can't bear children." Kemi's eyes welled up with tears. She had heard such accusations before, but it hurts more coming from Alex's mom. "Mama, please understand. We are doing everything we can." But Alex's mother was relentless. "I don't want excuses. I want results. My son deserves better than this. If you can't give him children, maybe he should find someone who can." Kemi broke down in tears as Alex's mother stormed out of the house, slamming the door behind her. The words echoed in Kemi's mind. When Alex returned from work, he found Kemi curled up on the couch, sobbing uncontrollably. He rushed to her side, alarmed by her distress. "Kemi, what happened? What's wrong?" he asked, his voice filled with concern. Kemi looked up at him, her eyes red and puffy. "Your mother came by today. She said some terrible things." Alex's heart sank. He knew his mother could be harsh, but he didn't expect this. He wrapped his arms around Kemi, holding her tightly. "I'm so sorry, Kemi. I'll talk to her. She had no right to speak to you like that." Through her tears, Kemi managed to speak. "Alex, what if she's right? What if I can never give you children?" Alex lifted her chin, looking into her eyes. "We're in this together, Kemi. No matter what. Tomorrow, we'll visit Dr. Barry and see what can be done." The next morning, Alex and his wife Kemi visited Dr. Barry, who ran a series of tests on both of them. A week later, Dr. Barry called Alex and asked that he come to the hospital with his wife. Alex agreed, but decided to go alone. He didn't know what to expect, but one thing he didn't want was for Kemi to be by his side if the fault was from him. When Alex arrived at the hospital, Dr. Barry greeted him with a concerned look. "Where is your wife, Alex? I thought she was coming with you." "She had to travel out of the country," Alex lied, forcing a smile. "Something came up and she couldn't wait." Dr. Barry raised an eyebrow. "So fast?" Alex shrugged, maintaining his composure. "It was urgent." Dr. Barry nodded slowly. Alright, let's discuss the result then. The tension in the room was palpable. Alex could feel his heart pounding as Dr. Barry opened the folder containing the test results. He looked at Alex with a serious expression. I have reviewed your test results and I have some news. Kemi, your wife, is okay. Her reproductive health is generally fine. However, Alex, the doctor began, his voice steady but somber, your test results indicate that you are infertile. This means it's highly unlikely that you will be able to father children naturally. The accident you had caused serious trauma to your reproductive organ. I'm very sorry, Alex. Alex felt the world collapse around him. The doctor's words echoed in his mind, blending with the haunting voice from his dreams. The room seemed to close in on him, and he struggled to maintain his composure. But, is there no way to fix it? Alex stammered, his voice barely a whisper. Dr. Barry shook his head gently. I am afraid not. The damage is irreversible. Dr. Barry looked at him with concern. There are options though. You and your wife can consider IVF or adoption. These are viable paths to having a family. Alex nodded, barely hearing the doctor's words as he left the office, his mind a whirlwind of fear and confusion. When Alex got home, he tried to put on a brave face. He handed Kemi her test results and told her, the doctor says you're fine. Kemi sighed in relief, hugging Alex tightly. Thank God. What about you? Alex forced a smile and held her close, but inside he felt like a fraud. He knew he couldn't keep the truth away from her forever, but he couldn't bear to see her hurt. I'm fine too. Dr. Barry advised us to keep trying and not to worry too much. Sometimes it just takes time. Kemi let out a sigh of relief. At least now we know we are fine, she said, hugging Alex tightly. Days passed, but the weight of the doctor's words never left Alex's mind. He couldn't help but wonder if the dream he had was real. Was the strange woman's proclamation coming true? The thought gnawed at him. One evening, unable to bear it any longer, Alex confided in his friend Ade. Ade, I need to talk to you, Alex said, his voice trembling. They were sitting in a quiet corner of a local bar, away from prying ears. What's wrong, Alex? Ade asked, concern etched on his face. Alex took a deep breath and recounted the strange dream, the eerie woman, and the chilling proclamation. He told Ade about the accident and the infertility diagnosis. Ade listened intently, his expression turning from concern to disbelief. Alex, that's some serious stuff, you know. Do you think the dream and accident are linked? Bro, I don't know what to think anymore, Alex admitted, his voice shaking, but everything points to that dream being more than just a nightmare. What if I really made a deal with something dark? Ade leaned back. Oh man, we need to find out more about this. So there must be someone who can help us understand what's happening. After some time, Ade suggested to Alex, oh boy, I know of one Auntie Celestina. She's a powerful seer and spiritual guide, known for her gift of seeing and prophecy. She lives in a remote village by the river, and people say she understands the mysteries of the spirit world like no other. Desperate for answers, Alex agreed. The next day, they prepared for the journey, which involved traveling by water since Auntie Celestina's village was in a riverine area. The journey was quite long. The river was wide and winding, with dense jungle on either side. They paddled through the still waters, the only sounds being the rustling of leaves and the occasional call of a distant bird. Finally, they arrived at a small dock where a narrow path led into the forest. They followed it to the clearing where Auntie Celestina's modest abode stood. Auntie Celestina was a middle-aged woman with an aura of wisdom and power. She wore a flowing white gown with a red rope tied around her waist, and she held a small bell in her hand. Her eyes were closed in deep concentration as she chanted and sang softly, the bell ringing rhythmically. When she finally opened her eyes, they seemed to pierce through Alex, seeing into his very soul. Welcome, Alex, she said in a calm, soothing voice. I have been expecting you. She motioned for them to sit, and they did so nervously. After a few moments of silence, she began to chant again, her voice rising and falling in an ancient melody. The atmosphere in the house grew heavy, and Alex felt a chill run down his spine. After a few minutes, she opened her eyes and looked directly at Alex. Her gaze was intense and penetrating. The cause of your troubles is in your phone, she said, her voice steady. You have a game named Money Lord. Alex and Ade exchanged worried looks. Alex's heart pounded as he recalled the game he had once played. "Yes, ma," he said, his voice trembling. "I used to have that game, but I lost the phone in an accident years ago. I only played it once." "You have indeed tangled with dark forces," Auntie Celestina said slowly. "The dream you had was no ordinary dream. It was a binding pact, and the price you agreed to pay is now being exacted." Alex felt a chill run down his spine. Auntie Celestina smiled knowingly. "Your details are still registered on that game. As long as you remain connected to it, you will never have children. The game requires you to give up something to gain more money, and you unknowingly gave up your manhood. The pact you made still binds you." Alex's mind raced as he tried to process her words. "What must I do to break the connection?" he asked, desperation creeping into his voice. Auntie Celestina's expression grew serious. "You must sever all ties with that game. Find a way to delete your account and remove all traces of it. Only then can the connection be broken. But there is more. To truly free yourself, you must rid off everything you have acquired through the pact. Only then will you find peace." Alex felt a chill run down his spine. The wealth he had acquired, the life he had built, the fame, the respect. The thought of losing everything was unbearable. Auntie Celestina shook her head gently. "This is the price you must pay to break the connection. You made a pact with dark forces, and they do not let go easily." Back at home, Alex sat alone, staring at the wealth and possessions he had accumulated. His mind raced with thoughts of the daunting task ahead. He knew he had to make a choice. What would you do if you were Alex? If you enjoyed this story and would like to know how the story progressed, please consider subscribing to this channel, not forgetting to turn on the bell notification icon so that once the other parts of this video is being posted, you will be the first to be notified. You can also check out these videos here. I promise you won't be disappointed. Till we meet again in my next video, remain blessed.